Every nurse has a patient that reminds them why they became a nurse in the first place. And mine was Joe. Joe was in the beginning stages of Alzheimer's. He had moments with and moments without his memory. But the hardest part about the aging process for Joe were his night terrors. He would wake up in the middle of the night screaming absolute bloody murder. But if I just went in there and sat with him for a little while, I could usually calm him down. But then he wanted to talk. He'd ask me if I could change his treatments, and I'd say, "No, Joe, I can't. I'm just the nurse." "What about my medications? Can you fix those?" And I'd say, "No, Joe, I can't. I'm just a nurse, but we can talk to your doctor in the morning." But because I couldn't connect with Joe on those levels, we connected in other ways. He would tell me about his grandbabies and ask me about volleyball. I'd bring him hot chocolate sundaes and multiple desserts on Sunday nights, but it was a lot of laughs with Joe. And then one night, everything changed. I found him in his room crying, and I went over to him, and I lifted his head up out of his hands, and I said, "Joe, I know that this is really hard, but you are not defined by Alzheimer's. You are not defined by this disease. You are still Joe." And he looked right back at me, almost to look through me, and said, "Then, Nurse Kelly, the same goes for you. Although you say it all the time, you are not just a nurse. You are my nurse, and you have changed my life because you have cared about me." And that's when it hit me that patients are people with family and friends, and I don't want to be a nurse that ever pretends, because you're not a room number and a diagnosis when you're in the hospital. You're a person, very first. And Joe reminded me that day that I'm a lifesaver, and I'm never going to be just a nurse.